In the meantime, we now head back to Lyon with the team from the Fête des Lumières. So I'll invite up Marion Traversy, Romain Tamayo, and Julien Pavillard to the stage. And so as a reminder, they'll present about the festival and the behind the scenes, and this is your chance, and you only get this chance once a year to ask your questions to the team. So don't be shy afterwards.
Good morning, everyone. We're glad to be here with you today. And thank you very much for coming to the festival. We've seen that in Madrid, they've had a lot of rain. So, you know, it's the same with us here this year. And we're really glad to really show you what you've already seen this year. And I'm surrounded by Marion and Romain, who are the two project managers of the Light Festival here in Lyon. And I'm the artistic director of the festival. So you've got the panel of people who are in charge of the festival. So the idea would be to showcase and to show you what we've done this year. So this was Madrid. And so we're going to try and explain. I'm going to try and explain when I arrived in 2020, the goal. And of course, in 2020, we didn't do anything because of COVID. And the idea was to reshape the festival, because I thought that it was a bit redundant and repetitive with a lot of artists that had already performed during the previous years. And of course, they're always welcome, but we wanted to attract new artists because light is very important, and we want to show the array of everything that's possible to do with light. And so this will to renew things and to change things is one of the main things that drove us, and it's in line with the impulse that came in later with the new local government and the new municipality. And they requested us to change and to renew the Light Festival, not necessarily in an artistic way, but what they would like to do is to extend the festival inside the neighborhoods. And that was the power that this festival had. And because of the terror attacks and COVID, we were limited, and we had a limited perimeter to work in. And that's why we're trying to renew things artistically and to work with neighborhoods, and also to organize artistic residencies. And we're trying to extend the festival and to go beyond the limits and the limitations that we have. And of course, the Light Festival, as any event, is being limited by the health situation right now. And so we're working hard on it. That's why at Parc Blandon, there are games for children, light games, that you can touch with your hands or on sensors. So you don't have to actually touch the artwork thanks to the sensors, or you can do it with your feet. So it doesn't pose any problems in terms of health. And so we'd already started that in 2020 to think about these things, and we met artists that offered to present projects. And in 2021, we didn't get a lot of court attenders because a lot of the artists from 2020, and because the festival was cancelled, decided to work, and we decided to work with them in 2021. And I'm not necessarily following the presentation that I prepared here, but we are trying to work with other countries and other festivals, and we are really trying to find new artists and get inspired by other cities and festivals. So the three of us have worked on this festival, at least the three of us, and we tried to innovate because it had almost become an institution in itself. And so it was a huge challenge for us to work on the Fourvière Hill. And I worked on the festival between 2005 and 2009. We started working on the whole hill. And it was one of the highlights, so to speak. And we worked on the basilica and the trees, the park, that's right below. And this year we decided to work on something maybe a little bit more specific artistically. You've probably seen this image that was produced by an artist, and then it was reshaped by the company that works for St. George's Church, and it was projected on the facade. And so we really wanted to, work in a different way and surprise people. And there are other artists that have never performed here and have another approach, another vision of things, with Cathy Olive, with Light Lab, and they have this more contemporary approach of light, and it will open new doors. And it had already been launched and explored in previous years, but this year we took it to another level. But I'm not going to get into too much detail, but we've tried to focus on children and on elderly people, people with disabilities, and that's what we've seen at Sergent-Blandan Park, people with children who did not want to walk around in the city with all the people that are there. It can be quite dangerous for children and for their parents with their children.
We also wanted to work more with the cultural associations of Lyon, such as Les Subsistances, who are hosting it here this year. We're delighted to have been able to work with them this year. We did a huge co-production with them to create new projects. It was really co-construction with Les Subsistances. We brought in some artists, but they also proposed other artists, and it was a more participatory approach. We also worked with the hospital, Saint-Luc Saint-Joseph, a small association. We also took into account the pandemic restrictions, so we had to really respect the patients and their families and the healthcare personnel, but we set up activities with them, and we also wanted to work on Rue de la République, which we already has the Christmas illuminations, but we wanted to have another illumination that was more artistic than what you might find in the catalogs. So not just street decoration, but really the proposal of an artistic creation. Now I'll let my colleagues give you more details about the different orientations that we chose. But we're quite strong for our Lights Festival, but we think they will be long-lasting. So again, we wanted a light festival adapted to children. This idea was launched by the mayor of Lyon, Gregory Doucet, who really wants us to think about the city at the level of children in a global way. And so the idea was to design a project overall, always thinking about children. So this is the first year that we've done this with a project that brought together several objectives. The first is linked to what Julien was saying, which is to re-extend the Light Festival to other neighborhoods of Lyon, to go out of just the center, which is called Presqu'île. And this year we chose the Parc Blandan, which had never hosted any projects in the past. And we really wanted to make it a living space where families could come in who are not necessarily in the most popular flows of tourists in the city center. And the idea was that the families could come in and see these 10 installations designed by a group of artists called the Group Labs, who've already worked on the Lights Festival in the past. And so they developed these games, the snake, hopscotch, a lot of different games that are very interactive installations for children so that the children can enjoy, have fun on them. For the 4 evenings of the Light Festival, the park will be open from 6 to 10 p.m., 4 evenings in a row. So for the first 2 evenings that we've had, it's been a huge success. There's an atmosphere in the park that is very joyous, very happy and peaceful. And it contrasts with the rest of the Lights Festival, which is maybe a little bit more hectic. And so we're going to continue this in the future, but we're very happy with the first experience that we've set up this year. We also have this booklet, the children's booklet with 24 pages with games that we've designed with a Maison Georges, which is an agency in Lyon. We're really happy with this collaboration. The idea was to have a tool that we could use for mediation with children in the broad sense so that we could teach them a lot of things about the Light Festival to really qualify and create a link between children and the Light Festival, but also between the children and the artists, giving them, setting up games on specific installations of the Lights Festival, but also giving them information on the artwork that may be conveying certain human or solidarity values, others more environmental, and to give them kind of a treasure hunt and giving them details on each work of art when they go to the different sites. They also have a little paper cutout where they can make a little illuminated lantern. And we used all of these booklets for our mediation activities with local children's community centers, with extracurricular activities for the children of Lyon. And we brought in the artists to these workshops. We had 3 sessions dedicated to the Light Festival. The first was an artist who came in not only to talk about his work and explain what he was doing, but also to have the children experiment with different materials. Sometimes they develop illuminated objects or videos, but they had a great time each time with the children. The second session that we organized was based around the educational booklet, and the third session will be after the Light Festival, and it will be the focus will be the collective creation of an artwork by the children that resonates with the Lights Festival. So we're already very happy with the first edition this year because the booklet was distributed to all school children in the city of Lyon, 35,000 approximately. So for us, it's a huge success already. And there was a lot of energy and synergy with the city of Lyon. A lot of different departments of the municipality came together to collaborate. We're not used to doing that. So I think this will lead to a lot of interesting collaborative projects in the future. As Julien said in his introduction, the last 2 years that finally led up to this Lights Festival have been full of change. So for us, it was really important to be so intense in terms of our reflections. We tried to anticipate the changing world. We tried to make a very contemporary Lights Festival, integrate the new political objectives. We wanted also, as we said, to renew the Lights Festival and to propose values to the public. After the pandemic, we really focused on proposing some activities linked more to hospitals and convalescent homes. We were able to do this year in an experimental way. It's just a first step. We hope to develop this throughout the next years of the mayor's term. As we said, we worked with the hospital, St. Joseph, St. Luke's, and we were able to set up an exhibit on the ground floor, working with an art gallery from the local neighborhood, the 7th arrondissement, and working with an artist, Sylvain Legros, who works with visual arts. He doesn't work much with light, and so we wanted to take this opportunity to try and combine practices and combine different artistic genres, working with our partners who welcome us in the hospital, the local gallery, local artists, and to create a dynamic in a new ecosystem. And this led to this exhibit where the artist created the content on site. So it's not the negatoscope, it's the same principle as what doctors use for X-rays. And he played on that idea with this with these reflections of light. It allowed the local citizens in Lyon to continue to visit it after the festival. And this allowed us to do mediation, to talk about the artist's approach and really encounter the public, young children, students, and hopefully they will be able to visit this installation throughout the month of December. We also worked, I think you've all seen it, here in the courtyard. We worked with Les Subsistances on this installation, and we're really happy because we worked with Stéphane on the project. In 2019, we missed an opportunity to work together, and so Stéphane and his team came back this year with a great project that really conveys all of the codes and the values that we believe in. So it was a common ground that we found to come to a cultural institution here, develop the territory of the festival, propose projects with support with artists in residence and competent people at Les Subsistances who can help us with this. And they have been able to contribute their production resources. We've had more participation in this way from the public. And so I'm a fan of this installation in the courtyard here at Les Subsistances, which is a mirror for us of what a modern light festival can be in terms of its conception. It's a lot of work of and eco design with very little materials, just some iron and some wood and just a few LEDs. So it's a great code or symbol that we're trying to illustrate with this installation. This is a great photo. I love this one. It really illustrates the project called Lumines. We want to share with the public who can't necessarily attend the Light Festival physically. So basically, if people can't come, we go to them. And the idea is to offer seniors a virtual reality experience, and we worked with our partners who gave us a lot of support to be able to go and work with these disabled seniors. And this was a period where we were not allowed to go and see our family in the hospital and in nursing homes, but their company proposes virtual reality experiences with a cultural motivation, a cultural mindset to allow people who are in these elderly retirement homes to escape a little bit The idea was we could record the festival and then propose it for a month to 4 nursing homes. But it will now be included in the Lumin library, content library, and we will be proposing it all over France and Belgium, this content. So it's a 5-year contract to start, renewable. It allows us to really make the festival come alive for a long time. We were able to equip several sites. And really, this reflects the diversity of the festival and to have a broader vision with different projects. So we talked about our different orientations that we're going to be following in the near future. We talked about inclusion. We talked about combining and working with other cultural institutions. One of the major objectives that the new mayor's team defends in the City of Lyon is to have a more sustainable festival with the commitment of all of the event managers to certification with the ISO 20121 certification. This is a standard that guarantees eco-responsible management of the event. And this approach will really require us to work in depth on the way we do things. And we need to involve all of the stakeholders of the festival with us, because the Lights Festival is at the foundation. It's a cultural festival, but we have all kinds of service providers and artists working on the festival with us, and we need to all work on an in-depth reflection concerning our usages and the way we can really be more attentive to environmental issues in what we're producing and in the way we organize. This is really an exciting approach. It will be a long-term approach. It will be a 3-year approach at least. We'll be able to start the start of this year. We'll be working with a service provider who will be guiding us along the different steps. It's very exciting because it's going to force us to re-examine all of our different practices and to be more and more relevant in terms of events organization and more respectful of the environment and respecting not only our carbon footprint, but also with a very strong social dimension. So unfortunately, we can't tell you much about the work that we've accomplished yet because we've just started, but this is one of the major objectives that we have for the future, which will profoundly impact the festival, I think, at every level. To conclude, let me tell you about our international collaborations. Well, we're delighted in this COVID context to be able to develop these collaborative projects because it wasn't obvious. So we had to make some choices, a bit protectionist choices, functional choices in terms of our programming to be able to work locally in France and avoid all of these problems of travel, because it was very uncertain at the time that we were setting up these projects. And when the context improved, we were able to get a better idea of the situation. So there was a new collaboration, a few new projects that were launched. And again, there's this idea of a strong link with the new political, the executive mandate in our municipality. We wanted to work with other European cities that share the same values as we do. So we worked with artists and stages and companies that interest us. The whole range of light creation. This year we launched 2 collaborative projects, one with the ambassador of the Netherlands in France. The embassy supported us with 2 projects that perhaps you've discovered. The first is Ralph Westerhof, a Dutch artist, and it's on the Saint-Vincent footbridge. The idea was to create a light signal to guide people to cross over to the subsistance, and the other is a visual experience of remnants, retinal persistence, and this is a collaboration on the right-hand side with what we want to do in the future is to develop this principle of inviting international artists. The second project is a cooperation with the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who work all over the world with their cultural institutes. So they work with the Italian Cultural Institute of Lyon here. And the idea was to set up some kind of digital new wave artwork from Italy. They work in Lisbon, New York, and many other cities. And for France, they chose to work in Lyon for the Light Festival. They presented two projects. One revolved around a specific theme. So that's interesting for us when we program. We try to have a panorama of thematic creations, and this is a way we can include humanism. So this questions technology or living together. And so here we proposed fixed images that were projected on the Temple du Change. And then at the Musée Gadagne, it has a lot of historical links, this neighborhood, with Italy. So that's why we wanted to set it up in that neighborhood. We are very open to collaborations such as these, if they make sense in terms of our values. And so don't hesitate to contact us if you're interested in collaborating with the city. And we will be delighted to envisage a collaborative project with you. And we finished, and now we're available if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. So, really great to hear from
Merci, c'est super d'entendre parler les experts, ceux qui sont dans les coulisses. Et je crois que
that everyone is inspired and has some questions for them, maybe online too, but in person, if anyone has a question, I have the microphone. Yes.
Thank you for your explanation, Ronald from GLOW Eindhoven. I have this question, how do you, in this transformation you now started, and that's great, I think, to do, how do you work with the expectations of the public? I mean, they come with buses from far away, and they have this expectation of Fête de la Lumière, and then they come to the city, and you are transforming. How do you work with that? That's the first question. And the second question is, how can you activate all this public then in this transformation, that they are part of the light and not only the spectators? I mean, that's what I hear in your transformation, getting people involved in light. I mean, I see it on the courtyard here, a beautiful project. And so first, the whole crowd, how can you accept the transformation for the whole crowd? And then the next step, how do you think about to involve the audience and the spectators in the transformation and getting part of the whole light? And then you have, of course, this beautiful story in Lyon about Les Millions. So.
Is it okay if I answer in French, Ronald? Yeah, cool. I know you speak a bit French, huh? So. Peut-être commencer par la...
Maybe we can start with the second part of your question about the participation of the public. That's quite a vast question. The idea is to be able to to phase things, to engage things as early as possible, to work upstream when we're designing the projects, by including people and launching things to prepare what is going to happen during the festival, and also to make sure that we have feedback afterwards. This can all be adapted with each project differently. At the Subsistance, we worked with the local artist here and the production team who worked with their resource people in the territory. And they worked with people in a socioeconomic reintegration association. So we worked with these resources also. We just initiate the project. We try to accompany, but we try to be very humble with these participatory projects that are supported more by the artists themselves and the support structures. For us, the idea is just to provide support. Yes, in this period where we are now, we initiated independently a form of audit on our practices with respect to different publics, especially people who are disabled. And with this work that we're going to be doing on this new standard, the ISO standard, we will have a very broad approach to the Lights Festival. And the idea here is to really set objectives, to have a notion of audit as to where are we and what means we put in place to reach those objectives. That's why we really wanted to start this certification process, because it really targets the Light Festival with the notion of inclusion and more sustainability, and we will have to measure what we will do in the coming years. And we will also develop in the next years a return to the past, which is artistic residences. We want to include people, the inhabitants, more to be able to participate in the construction of the festival. We did this a little bit this year in a certain way, even if they're imposing the projects. We did it with the children, because in the park, if the children don't play with these installations, it doesn't even work. So, but we have even more participatory projects for next year. We won't necessarily ask the public to choose the projects or the themes, but we'll ask them to build, the way we did it in the Subsistance, for a fairly long period, to build with artists who are in residence in the neighborhoods. This is a concept that we will try to develop further in 2022. So it's a twofold axis. We want to be inclusive in the design and the construction of our artistic projects, but then we want people to be able to access the project, whether it's physically or through the intermediary of different systems. As Marion said, we launched this year a little study to understand how disabled people felt about the Lights Festival, what they needed, what they wanted, and we listened to their feedback and some accessibility studies to be able to propose better accessibility next year. We really hope that we can go further and then even harness more creative potential, and maybe even bring in disabled artists themselves so that we could really provoke an encounter between everyone and really break down the silos. I think one value that we really have is this breaking down of the partitions.
What we want is to move towards the audience, so to speak, and we want it to become warm and more welcoming, and to go towards people and not necessarily attract people towards us. So what was the first question? It's off microphone, so the interpreters cannot interpret. So we've answered both questions, haven't we? Unfortunately, the interpreters cannot hear what's being said.
We have a retrospective and looking forward already, and I think that's great. So you are in a transition. But the first question is, how do you actually, that is the second question. You make this transition, and then the people coming to Lyon, they have this expectation of the festival. How do you work with that to get them involved with the transition? They come with the expectation to see maybe I said, the old Fête de Lumières, and now you're going to make this transition to a new area. How do you provide that you keep your audience, that you keep your public, and keep them with the energy by the Fête de la Lumière?
Mais je crois qu'en fait, les festivals Lumières en général, pas juste la Fête des Lumières, en fait,
I think that for lights festivals in general, not necessarily la Fête des Lumières here in Lyon, sometimes there's a lack of recognition from the people who work as urban light artists, just like artists in museums or theaters. And generally they suffer from this lack of recognition. And in a museum or a theater, the first thing that comes to our mind is the artistic direction of things and the project that we want to develop, whatever the audience. And that's what we're doing here now. Of course, we know that there are expectations because of all the symbolic heritage sites here in Lyon, and because light is so important, because all of the festivals of the world are promoting light and light festivals. And you know, I'm a bit older, so the festivals that we were creating 15 or 20 years ago, people were discovering what light was all about. And it was something that was so impressive at that time that, you know, just projecting some images on facades was something that was sufficient already. But it was not only in Europe, but then in the whole world, the level of expectations from the audience rose. And of course, it's a huge opportunity for us, and we all taken advantage of this. And so our approach to light is different now. And this new vision of light, this higher vision of light, we can have it through art and our artistic vision, and people can adapt to what we propose. And of course, there are several ways of seeing things and of approaching things. And there are a lot of people who just want to, you know, go by the artistic work and not necessarily analyze it. And there are people who, contrary to this, are going to spend time watching details and the quality of light and how everything's projected. But in terms of artistic direction, we are trying to show things to people rather than adapt to the people, adapting to the people that come. And of course, if we want to take risks in terms of artistic direction, it all depends on how we present things and how it's anchored here in terms of participatory work, and also to promote the artist's work and to work together with the audience towards the festival.
Yep. Just have to wipe off the... Okay, any other questions in the room? Otherwise, I think we have some questions online. Wave. Yes?
Oui, c'est une question de Bibi, artiste, donc voilà.
It's a question from BB, one of the artists. So my question is quite technical concerning the changes in terms of direction, environmentally speaking. Do you envisage the power consumption of all the installations? And even with LEDs today, it does consume a lot of power. So is it something that you take into consideration because it's quite a touchy issue to face. Well, it's not necessarily true that, for instance, in Saint-Jean Square, the difference between the energy that we spend, the power that we spend for the day-to-day light is the same as for the festival. But then in terms of environment, that's not where things should be improved, because thanks to LEDs, we've improved a lot of things, and even the projectors are laser projectors. So with LEDs inside, so the power consumption is not as high as in the past. And when we think that we've got TV sets at home, we do consume a lot of power. And of course, there are 14 projectors on Terreau Square. There are so many people that then if you break it down and divide it into the number of people that are on the square, it does not necessarily represent a lot of power consumed. But then in terms of carbon footprint for the visitors coming into Lyon, that's another issue. And of course, that's one of the issues, and of course the environmental approach needs to take all of these criteria in account in order to understand which are the most important points on which we need to focus. And so we need to define objectives by auditing our own practices and to see which points should be addressed, and from then on start working on this and how we can continuously improve our practices. And so we need to broaden the scope here. And this is something that we've tried to do this year with the new markets internally when we analyzed the markets, and the environmental responsibility was something that we did take into consideration. But of course, on this very criterion, I think we all need to scale up in terms of skills, with the artists, the service providers, and ourselves. Because right now we are publishing a program through public markets. And of course, there are selective criteria that are really important. And of course, the environmental aspect is gradually becoming more important. So we need to be trained on the environmental expectations in order to be able to correctly analyze the projects that we consider and analyze, and to see how they can be rolled out in the field. Because sometimes public markets are a bit like best practices catalogs. And when they're implemented, they do not stick to the rules and the specifications. So what's important is to try and get everyone on board, everyone that's going to work with us, so that collectively we can improve our best practices. And of course, this is going to require a little bit of time.
Merci, j'espère que ça a répondu à la question.
Thank you. I hope it answered the question.
Okay, we have some questions from the internet, the live stream. So here we go. So someone says, thank you for the interesting insights. I'm curious whether in your effort to reimagine what a light festival could be and what appreciation of light can mean, you will also seek to include artwork or projects which can make people engage sunlight or appreciate natural light, which is distinct to different places and seasons.
Alors, les perspectives pour les années prochaines, on est en train de travailler dessus, donc pour l'instant, on ne va pas dévoiler.
Well, for the upcoming years, we're currently working on it, so we're not going to unleash everything. And we've already started a few weeks ago. And so we started thinking about the evolutions, not necessarily for next year, but for the upcoming years, until the end of our mayor's term. But we're also analyzing and considering new perspectives and try to work during daytime as well for the Light Festival. So maybe you could take light, natural light into consideration. We're currently analyzing and trying to compare what the best options could be. But because we've got this limitation because of terrorist attacks and, you know, all the health consideration, we are working on this 4-hour scope and to see what we could do inside or outside the perimeter to try and start with the Light Festival during daytime. And we could also imagine that the Light Festival could extend in December or during the rest of the year. But, you know, there are lots of events here in Lyon, so it's not really simple to think about this. But we're currently developing this water festival, and that's a temporary name, La Fête de l'eau. And it would be organized in early July. And so that's when night comes at 10:30 more or less. And we could work with daylight. And so we need to keep working on it. And of course, we also have the budget limitation, and we need to see how everything is distributed so that we can approach light in a different way.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to add anything? Great. Okay, another question from the live stream from Jaap Schuring of Signify, referring to the projects with children that Marion talked about. The third part of it that you'll do after the festival, will that be duplicated? Would it be a good idea to share this virtually with other cities?
Donc cette partie, on va dire, de création d'une œuvre.
Well, the fact that we're creating an artwork together with children. Well, I have to admit that this is our first year and we're trying things out here. So it's something that we're going to do in a reduced manner, and we're going to work with schools here in Lyon and the youth centers here in Lyon or leisure centers, because we didn't have time to roll it out at a larger scale. But next year, we're going to try and create interactions, broader interactions. But for the time being, it's a very local approach that we've chosen to have. So it's the third time we're going to visit schools for the third time, and we're going to create some artwork, and that will be for youth centers and schools in a very local way. And for next year, we are trying to create creative processes with children and artists. This year, we've tried to launch new ideas and throw things to the air and see how things were working. And we've seen that people were really enthusiastic about it. But I don't really know what it's going to be like in the future for now.
Staying safe.
Yeah, maybe it's just a remark on the question and on your answer. Maybe it's very good to do it local, but you can connect a local project on internet. And I think the materializing of light local is very beautiful. Then with hands, children make something with light and see it. And then you can connect it. I mean, and then we transport ideas of children and light above to a lot of kilometers, geographically seeing, but also in time. I mean, you can have a festival in January or in December or November, and you make something with children, and they can share it with each other. I think that would be a very good idea to think about.
Tout à fait.
Exactly, you're right.
Any questions in the room? No? Let me check online. Okay. We have another anonymous question for the international collaborations that you've talked about. What are the perspectives for Lyon doing something in other countries? Here you talked about Amsterdam is here, the Italian project. Will Lyon go other places with some of the artworks?
Alors, bien sûr, quand on pense collaboration internationale, on peut penser dans les deux
Of
sens.
course, when we think about international collaborations, we can think of going abroad, and we'll be glad to do that. But the difference with other festivals is that we do not necessarily want to buy the artwork from our artists because they do not belong to us. But of course, we're in favor of creating together some artwork with this or that festival in this or that country, and the objective would be to organize it at a different time of the year. And so would be the objective would be to create something jointly created on the foreign festival, and then that it would be imported to Lyon. So the idea is that we are not the priority. Light is a priority, and it's a cultural object, and this co-building, this co-design of things can be done elsewhere. And we are really open-minded about the fact that we can create, and that Lyon can create things elsewhere, beforehand or afterwards. And of course, cooperation goes in both directions. And I think that this is a topic that we'd tackled briefly last year during the conference, during the LUCI conference, and I think it resonated a lot with all the people that were here together with us at that time, and time went by really fast, but maybe we could, refresh and ask the question again to see if people are still wanting to do that.
We do have the Light Festival Working Group, which Lyon is a member of, Glow here in the room, and many of you online. I will do a special shout out. Right now we have Chicago online, so it's 5 a.m. in the United States right now, so thank you for being awake and joining us for that. So these are definitely some questions that we hope to continue outside of the Lyon Light Festival Forum about collaborations between the members, co-productions, and exchanges. So, last chance for some questions in the room.
Ronald, don't be shy.
And let me check if there's anything online. Nope. LUCI team, nothing online. Okay. Well, I think we will thank you for joining us and for sharing your experiences and all of the great things that we saw and for the future of the Fête des Lumières in Lyon. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just have some closing words to leave you with. Here we go. A major, major thank you to everyone who came to Lyon once again, and a thank you to everyone who's online, like I said, from all over the world. The total statistics of all the connections we'll try to share next week to showcase where everyone was logging in from. I do hope that everyone who is here and online will stay in touch with LUCI throughout the next few weeks and the year. The live stream will be available as a recording on our website, so you can check back if you missed some moments yesterday or today. You'll have a chance to see them again. Here you see our email address. If you have any other questions about what you heard, we'd be happy to try to find some answers and help you connect with the different members. If you're interested in learning more, you can follow us throughout the rest of the year, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We'd be really happy to have you follow us and join us hopefully for future events. So thank you, everyone. We hope to see you again. Bye.